Hi guys, nice Friday night. Man, the wind was blowing hard up here today, but it was warm, really warm. Upper 80s, and I mean the wind was gusting up here probably 30 miles an hour every once in a while, which kind of got me out of some honeydews. I was supposed to be spraying some weeds and stuff, and man, you can't do that, and you'll kill everything going. But turned out to me be a good day of going out and shopping. I'm looking for some implements for our new tractor and to get along and do some production on this place. And I will say right now, officially, you guys are the first ones to hear it. I'm officially retired. I'll make odd jobs and stuff like that, spraying and helping people and this, that, and the other. But as far as working for institutions and other companies, and like I say, I'll work on my own. But more than anything, I'm going to do the work of the Lord, and that's what I've always wanted to do. So as of this date, which I don't even remember, dates don't matter to me anymore. A lot of other people are the same way, I believe. Like, what day is it? I know it's Friday. I think it's the 23rd. Could be somewhere around in there, 2020. But it doesn't matter. It's day by day, living that way. And it's been a long time coming for me. And so this is official, big time. So we're excited. I mean, we really are. Like I say, I love you guys. It's gotten to where this is really good therapy for me to do this and not getting to lay my brother to rest properly. But he was a restless soul. So, hey, this goes right along with his lifestyle and the whole 9 yards. Like, wait a minute, I'm not done. One of those kind of things. But I just want to put that out there. Like I say, I've got a website, not a website yet, but I will. But I've got a new email address, which it's all lowercase. It's hisministry@gmail.com. That's where I will be conversing with people and doing the work of the Lord. And so, I'm excited. I really am. I've been wanting to do this since I was probably 18 years old, and it's taken this long to go through the fire for the Lord to trust me. And I'm excited about it. And I'm going to be adamant about it too. So enough of that. We're back to Roger. I was reminiscing some things, going back to a lot of stuff we did in our lifetimes. And, I keep going back. There's so many stories I could tell about the Bahamas. I want to go back there tonight, just kind of hit my heart. I'm kind of a spontaneous guy, and so whatever is on my heart is what I want to talk about. And those were the happiest times of my the Roger B. Kirk, Barbara Ward Kirk family times of our lives. They were. I mean, we had some great times, and like I say, we chased that treasure train and had some great times, and my dad entertaining people, because that's how we grew up, as entertaining people. And Roger was just a natural entertainer. It didn't matter. I mean, it didn't. So to kind of go back to the Bahamas, to remind you, my dad's last tour of duty in the Navy, and the Atlantic was on the north side, and the Caribbean was on the south side of the Luther Bahamas. And the island was 100 miles long and 5 miles wide at the widest point. And there was actually a little break, you might say, in the island, but they still didn't call it different, because they connected it with this giant man-made concrete bridge, and it was called the Glass Bridge. And it was called the Glass Bridge because the Atlantic would crash in, crash out. And the Caribbean was just ease in, ease out, just smooth. So you had the kind of the metaphorically, you had the two energies meeting together in this world. One chaotic and beautiful, and the other one calm, kind, and beautiful. I'm just saying, depending on how you look at it. So living there, you know, and when you go across a glass bridge, there were times when that stuff, you get there at the right time. I can't tell you because I was a kid how thick it was, but it was, you know, but it would the Atlantic side would crash onto that so hard that the vibrations onto the Caribbean side, it'd be ripples because it's so calm. It's amazing. It's one of the outer islands, and you know, sad to say, we always wanted to go back there. And I think in my lifetime, with Roger especially, that's probably my one and only regret. Because I don't regret anything. My life's my life. Your life is your life. And you grow. And so I don't regret any of my experiences or mishaps or anything like that. But that one, if I ever had a regret, it would be regretting that we never as a family, or even my brother and I, Roger, even Bobby, but Bobby was so little, I don't think he remembered it that much. He just remembered what we told him because he was only 1.5 to 2 years old. And so that memory is set in stone, and I was only 7 and 8 years old, but it was like it was yesterday. But not to go back there, man, that's probably my only regret. It really is, and it's sad to say that, but the memories are there, and that's why I like to talk about them and let you guys in on some of the gems of that. You know, the one thing about the Bahamas, when we first were traveling over there, we were flying out of Miami. It may have been Fort Lauderdale, I believe, probably was. We're flying out because that's the closest point. So we're flying out to Luther out of there, and it was on what they call the Bahama Mama. And the last time I knew of anything, Roger even looked it up. It still runs, but it's a jet. It's not a jet. It's a prop plane. I can't remember. It might have been a 10-passenger plane. But you're flying at altitude to where you can, especially at certain times of year, you can run into a lot of, Scott knows what I'm talking about. You can run into a lot of turbulent and then air pockets that the plane literally sinks. I mean, just drops like 10 or 15 feet out of nowhere. And I remember the water was kind of choppy, and my mom goes, look, and tell my little brother the water's choppy, and he called it chalky. And so that was kind of a funny thing because the water was always chalky, it never was choppy. And but we're flying over there, and we hit a couple of those, and we're looking out the window, and my mom's talking about that. And man, my little brother reached over when that happened and shut that window and wouldn't let anybody open it up. I mean, you couldn't look out. You can forget it. So anyway, when we got there, we landed, and we went with, my dad had already been there a little bit and met some people. There was the Seabees on the island also, which was like the engineers of I guess the Corps of Engineers, but they were called the Seabees. They were like Navy people, but they were like, man, bulldozers. They built highways, they built runways. They were crucial and essential in World War II. I know that. Look them up. Seabees were unbelievable, and their emblem was just amazing. It was like a bee, like an angry bee with tools in his hand. Look up Seabees because you'll love it. But Ronnie Vaith and Betty Vaith, he was a CB, and he was like my dad. He ran the CB base, which it was government. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't Navy. So it was kind of different. And I don't understand it. I never researched it, but you might look it up if you're into that. I don't know Scott will. Scott's into that. Scott party and knows it. We hit there, in the first place we went, because we didn't have a place yet, was at the Vaith's house. And Ronnie Vaith was a diver. And he took Roger and I out into the Caribbean side, calm waters, coral reef. I'm telling you guys, literally, you could see 200 yards, crystal clear. Anything that moved, anything that was there was sand, there was coral, there was every exotic fish you can imagine. And the first day we landed, he took us to the beach. And Roger and I fell in love with sand and beach and that kind of stuff. I promise you, that was just, and it's still, thinking about it now just gives me goose pimples, because man, we had never experienced anything like that. The water's warm and crystal clear. We're snorkeling. Of course, I'm young and I'm not coughing, and he's trying to teach me how to do it. So, I finally got it down where you go under and you come up and you blow it out, and we're doing that kind of stuff. But the amazing stuff we saw that day, and I'm telling you, man, I don't think it seemed like it. I think he intentionally kept us out there till dark. We were there 4 or 5, 6 hours because we loved it so much. And so did he. He was a diver, and he loved it. I mean, Roger was older and got to go with him on some scuba diving things, and then some other things that I didn't because I wasn't old enough. But I think if Roger had his druthers, he could live on the Bahamas, on the Eleuthera for the rest of his life and never have another care. That's one thing I think that he yearned to get back there. But, that's another one of those sayings that, it takes money to get back there and do that kind of stuff. And he had no desire to do that. And, we took him on a trip 4 or 5 years ago to Fort Lauderdale. My cousin Mike was wonderful enough to have a timeshare down there. And we probably hadn't had a vacation in, I can't remember when. And we wanted to take one, and we just happened to talk to Mike, and Mike goes, "Oh man, you guys use my timeshare, man. You don't have to pay for hotel or any of that stuff." So we went to Fort Lauderdale, and that's as close as we ever got. I remember in Fort Lauderdale Beach, Roger and I were talking like, it's only 50 miles. 50 miles. And we'd be back in the heaven that we knew as kids. And we reminisced about that on that beach there. And I'm forever grateful for my cousin Mike. Sorry. But we had a blast then too, and I'll probably do Saturday night, I'll do a Fort Lauderdale thing, because that's not what I planned tonight. It just kind of led there. And I'll take y'all down, growing old with Roger, going to Fort Lauderdale and what we did. It was amazing. It was as close as we could get to getting to the Bahamas, because that part of the Atlantic was really, really close to being the Caribbean. I mean, it is. And anyway, so back to Ronnie Vaith and Betty Vaith. They put us up. We stayed there for a few days, and that was on the south end, Governor's Harbor of Eleuthera. And man, they took us everywhere. I'll never forget the drums. They got the steel drums. That to this day is the most amazing man-made instrument I've ever heard in my life, because you're talking about basically native people who take the top of a drum and then beat these different shapes into it, that when you hit it, it makes a different sound. And if you've ever heard it, you'll never forget it. And that's kind of where we were. We were going, Governor's Harbor was so awesome. I think we stayed with them a couple of weeks. You know, like I said, I was 7 and 8. I don't remember. I'm just kind of trying to pull it out of my hat as an adult in actuality. But I'll never forget, it was my first experience with fast pitch softball. Holy cow. These guys were amazing. And I was an athlete wannabe. I wasn't a natural athlete, but I had the heart's desire, so I was willing to do whatever it took to do sports. And we call it sports. I don't want to get into that. It's a game. And so you're athletic. You're playing a game. Sports is like fishing and hunting. That's sports. Playing a game is to me, is a whole nother ballgame. They try to lump them together. But to watch these guys play, and if I'm not mistaken, they were definitely professional. They were getting paid. But that blew my mind because these guys would, underhand, I mean, curveball, you name it, they did it. It was fast. And when they got a hold of one and hit it out, the crowd went wild. And it was probably the sports event on that island. I know it was English rule back then. We drove on the left-hand side of the road, not the right. So we had shillings and pounds and that kind of stuff. You had to convert your money. And they all spoke with a little bit of an English accent. So it was under British rule back then. And we, it was kind of neat to experience that culture. But I'll never forget, I think they also had they had the English sports, the cricket. I don't think we ever witnessed that. If we did, it wasn't much. It didn't catch my eye. There was definitely football. We called it soccer back then. I don't think we did that, but they called it football. And matter of fact, I got out with some guys, some native guys in the Bahamas. They were all about my age, and I was trying to teach them American football. And I had a full uniform. And I would try to tell them, I said, look, this is how you play the game. You're talking about a 7-year-old kid that's trying to tell them how to play American football. I had a football and a football uniform, and I was trying to tell them, and these guys understood English. Trust me, but most of them were black, and but they weren't stupid. I mean, they just didn't know American ways. And so I was trying to teach them American football on a soccer field. And I would tell them how he did it. This is a goal. If I cross this, I went through the whole thing. And I said, okay, I'm going to take off and you guys tackle me. And they followed me all the way from one end zone to the other. And when I got the other end zone, across the end zone, I go, touchdown. And they tackled me. So it was like, back then I didn't know how to teach them, but we went through all that kind of stuff, and it was just great times. And then after we moved into our house, there, like I said, we had a little place there in between. It's called real close to Hatchet Bay. It was in between the base and Hatchet Bay, and then the base on south. It was up on the northern part, more central anyway. The south was Governor's Harbor. And then, every once in a while, once a week or whatever, when mom and dad wanted some time alone, we'd go stay with the base, which we loved it. It was awesome. They always took us to the baseball games and snorkeling and that kind of stuff. So, it was a paradise like you wouldn't believe. And that's, I think that's where Roger got his sense of adventure. He was always, Dylan, matter of fact, his son Dylan posted something his mom had found was 3 store magazines. I call them magazines, but they're comic books. And Roger had probably a collection of Marvel comics back then, and DC too, but Marvel comics back then, he probably had, at least 50. Minimum. And then when we got there, these people left behind 2 Foot Lockers full of them. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because we were in the Bahamas or whatever, all the covers were cut off of them. It was really weird. So it wasn't anything you could do collectors-wise. But it was every Marvel comic you can imagine. And Roger was really into that and superhero stuff, and we did crazy stuff. And I can remember one time we went there was an old barn. We would explore. I'm his buddy. Back then, like I said, we were closest of all of our lives. No one else old enough to go with him or around the family. And then he was homeschooled, so he didn't have a school character. So when I got home, he'd be foaming at the mouth to go do something. I go, let's go. So we'd take off. And there was an old barn, because there were a lot of, it was almost like plantations. There were a lot of hay and there was a lot of cows. My good friend that I had in school, dad owned a dairy. And so we got to go explore all that and get, ice cold, fresh chocolate milk. I actually thought the cows actually gave chocolate milk. I did. And then anyway, it didn't matter. It was great. So anyway, Roger and I remember one time we go out and we're building the huts out of bamboo and the palm leaves. Big, nice, beautiful huts. It was awesome. You could build them so quick and easy. It was killer. And Roger's at the age like 13 where, man, he was into that stuff. And so we would have the coolest forts you've ever seen in your life. And then we go out to this barn. And I'll never forget my dad teaching us that, you can talk through a can. Well, we literally, I would guess it was probably 100 feet of twine with two cans. And out there was no other noises. There wasn't city noises and all that kind of stuff. You could literally hear each other talk through that line. I'm not kidding you. And so those memories were just, oh my goodness, amazing. Like I said, and then we go to the base. We go to the north end of the island, and then there was another one. I'll remember in a minute, but there was another island that was really north of us that you went to the end of Eleuthera and you lit a fire. And that let the ferry know at the other island that you wanted to ride over and they'd come get you. That was it. That's how you let them know, hey, we want to come over. And that island is famous. Man, old people. But that island was famous and still is this day. If you look up Eleuthera in that area and the northern islands, that island actually had pink sand on the north side of the beaches. And I could go on forever talking about the Bahamas and Eleuthera. It had to be the happiest, greatest times that we've ever had. And if you guys will Google or go on and look at, I think it was even YouTube, Roger and I did it a few years back. The naval base has been abandoned there. And but there's a tour through the naval base that we were on. It's on the internet. If you look, Eleuthera Naval Base, Eleuthera, Bahamas. And it was really eerie because Roger and I think it was before we were looking at it before we were going to go to Fort Lauderdale. We kind of looked it up and said, hey, maybe, it'd be awesome. So if you look that up, you'll see it. And they take you a tour through there. And it's all jungled up. I'm not kidding you. Every vines, all kinds of stuff. The buildings are all grown. They're all still there. The whole base is still there. And like I said, it was a secret base when we were there in 63, 62. It was a secret base. And anyway, part of history of the United States of America in Eleuthera, and we were part of it. That's how phenomenal our family was. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be proud, because I'm not. Because I swallowed my pride a long time ago. That's where it was, and it was awesome. Matter of fact, just reminded me something that, the first sin was pride. Satan had pride. That was the first sin. That's what got him kicked out of heaven. And then the Lord reminded, like I said, this is the year of 2020. And the Lord, I've shared this with some people and they've experienced it, and it's amazing. If you have children or grandchildren, or even your spouse or your good friend, rather than say, I'm so proud of you, because that's of the devil, believe it or not. When Jesus was baptized by John in the Jordan, God appeared to them before in a cloud before them, and spoke down and said, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased." He didn't say I'm proud of him. "And whom I'm well pleased." God showed me that. And when I said that to my children, especially my son, it was amazing the peace that was released from me to him. And his demeanor changed. His acceptance of that was just amazing. So when you speak to people and you are it gives you joy, and to see them grow, regardless of who they are, whether they're your children, your mom, your dad, your friends. If you'll express it in that way, especially if you've never done it to your children, to say, you know what, John, I am well pleased with you. I know John gets a bad rap, but we're talking about, anonymity. But, anybody, you just tell them that. That's from God. And if you'll do that, you'll experience peace like you've never experienced before. And I'm 64 years old, and I never, ever knew that. That's why I say what the Lord has revealed to me for this year in 2020, you'll get clarity. Just seek it. Seek Him, you'll receive it. Seek the truth, you'll get it. Seek justice, you'll get it. Seek spiritual awakening and visions, you'll get it near and far. This is 2020. There's very, very big time significance in that. I've never seen clearer than I've ever seen in my life right now. Relationships, financial, spiritual, justice, it's all there. Been laid out before me because I sought it. I dove in and studied it. You got to dig. You can't, it's not on the surface. It's not. You've got to commit. Boy, that's another one. If you want to know anything about commit, email me. It's his ministry. And let me tell you about commit. It's his ministry at gmail.com. It's amazing what the Hebrew Greek word is for commit and what it really means. I love you guys, and I've been kind of absent lately, but I'll try to leave you with a little bit of something. I've got a small repertoire, and I just like to already. There was if I can remember the words. The Stevie Ray song. I don't know all the words, but we'll give it a shot. All right. This is Stevie Ray Vaughan, by the way, which we used to see him on 6th Street for the price of a hamburger. He's up on stage, just getting it. Anyway, I'll leave y'all with this. Love you. Peace. Been raining down in Texas. Oh, been a big bad storm. I said it's been raining down in Texas. Yeah, come a big old flood. That's why I couldn't get back to you, baby. Because of the floods been raining down in Texas. Been raining down in Texas. Yeah, the water's up to the telephone pole. Been raining down in Texas, baby. It's gonna take a while for me to get home. But when the water settles down, you know I'll be back to see my baby back home. Peace.